think
For all of
of
us
a
who are
more
parents of
despondent
daughters,
comment. I can hardly think of a more despondent
Afghans
comment.
facing this coming darkness with a sense of being abandoned. Afghans
by
facing
the
this coming
regional
darkness with a
and
sense of being
international
abandoned.
community. By the regional and
They expect
international
far greater
community.
engagement and visible support.
They expect
from
far
you
greater
as the
engagement
Council
and
mandated
visible support to maintain international
as the
peace and
Council
security.
mandated
To
in
maintain
this
international
regard,
peace
your
and
statement
security.
of the 4th of August condemning the
In
attack
this
against
regard,
the UN
your
office in
statement
Herat
of the
was
4th of
greatly
August
appreciated
condemning
by
the
us
attack against
for
the
show
UN
of
office
support
in
for
Herat
UNAMA,
was
but
greatly
more
appreciated by us
for the
for
call
show of
again
support
for an end to the violence
more
and a
importantly,
resumption of a
for the
meaningful
call
peace
again
process.
for an end to the
This
violence and a resumption of a
solidarity
meaningful peace
matters
process
to
Afghans.
This
They
solidarity
need to
matters
hear and
to
see
Afghans.
more of it. They
in
need
actions
to
and
hear
in
and
words.
see more of it. In actions
But
and
Mr.
in
President,
words.
there are also several important opportunities
In
in
the
the
near
near future
future,
where our words and our actions could help bring an end
in the near
to this
future,
war.
where our words and our
Next
actions
week,
could
there
help
will be
bring an
meetings in
end to
Doha
this war.
of a number of the special
Next week, there
representatives
will be
of key
meetings in
countries,
Doha,
of
including
a
a
number
meeting
of the special
of the extended
representatives
troika.
of key countries,
And we, of course,
including
will
a
meet here
meeting
again
of the
on the
extended
10th
troika.
of September,
And we,
for
of
the
course, will
regularly
meet here
scheduled
again
Security
on the
Council
10th of
briefing on
September
Afghanistan.
for the regularly scheduled
And
So,
Security Council briefing on
How
Afghanistan.
can we use these opportunities?
And so,
to address
how can we use these
the
opportunities
deteriorating
to
situation
address that we face?
the deteriorating
Situation that
The
we
Security
face.
Council must issue
First,
an
the
unambiguous
Security
statement
Council must
that
issue
attacks
an
against cities
unambiguous
must
statement. Stop
that
now.
attacks against cities must
Second, stop now.
those countries that meet with the Taliban Political
Second,
Commission
those
should
countries
insist
that
in
meet
these
with the
meetings
Taliban
on a
Political
general
Commission
ceasefire should insist
a
in these
resumption of the
meetings
negotiations
on a general ceasefire
as well as reiterate the
a
position
resumption
of the
Security
Security
Council and that of
as
the
well
regional
as
and
reiterate
international
the
position of the
communities
Security
that a
Council and
government
that of the
imposed
regional
by
and
force
international
in
communities
Afghanistan
that a
will not
government
be
imposed by
recognized.
force
in
Third,
Afghanistan will not
as
be
I have
recognized.
already mentioned, the
Third,
travel ban exemption
as I have
on
already
Taliban
mentioned,
members, the
exists
travel ban exemption
to allow
on
them
Taliban
to travel
members
for the sole
exists
purpose of
to
peace
allow them to
negotiations.
travel
For the
The
sole
exemption is
purpose
to be
of
renewed
peace
on the 20th of
negotiations.
September. The exemption
Further
is to be
extension
renewed on the
must
20th of
be
September.
predicated on
Further
real progress
extension
on peace.
must be predicated on real progress.
on peace.
The Council and those states who meet with the
Fourth,
Taliban
the
must
Council
urge
and
them
those
to
states
grant
who meet with
humanitarian
the
access
Taliban
to areas
must
it controls
urge them to
and grant
commit
humanitarian access to areas
in
it
contested
controls
areas.
and commit
If it
to
will not agree
humanitarian
to the
ceasefires
general
in contested
ceasefire
areas.
that truly the
If it
Afghans
will not agree
really
to the
require.
general ceasefire,
that
and
truly
at the
the
same
Afghans
time,
really
member
require.
states should contribute to
And
the
at the same
severely
time,
underfunded
member states
humanitarian
should contribute to the
humanitarian
severely
appeal
underfunded
for
humanitarian
Afghanistan. This humanitarian appeal
right
for
now
Afghanistan
stands at only
This
30%
humanitarian
funded.
appeal right now
stands at
Number
only
five.
30% funded.
We need to put on notice the
Number five.
architects and perpetrators
We
of
need
the
to
most
put
serious
on notice
violations of human
the
rights.
architects and
UNAMA
perpetrators
strongly
of the most
supports
serious
greater
violations
efforts by
of
the
human
United
rights.
Nations and
UNAMA
regional and
strongly
international
supports
greater efforts by the
community
United Nations
to find
and
ways
regional and
to hold
international
the
perpetrators
community
accountable. To find ways to hold the
Six.
perpetrators accountable. The Council should give
Six.
serious consideration to providing the United
Council
Nations
should give
with the
serious
mandate that
consideration
allows it to
to
play
providing the United
when
Nations
requested by
with the
both
mandate that
parties
allows
a
it to
greater
play
role in
when
facilitating
requested by
the
both
negotiations.
parties.
A greater role in facilitating
Mr.
the
President
negotiations.
and
members of the Council. We will
Mr.
meet again
President and
to
members of
discuss
the Council.
Afghanistan in little
We will
over
meet
a month.
again
To discuss
but we cannot
Afghanistan
wait.
in little over a month.
But we
These
cannot
next
wait.
weeks will be decisive. These
But I am
next
absolutely
weeks will be
convinced
decisive. That whatever happens on the
But I am
battlefield,
absolutely convinced
whether the
that
Taliban
whatever
take
happens on the
additional
battlefield,
cities, or whether the
whether the
government
Taliban
gains
take
additional
districts,
cities, or whether the
result will
government
only prolong
gains
districts.
Afghanistan's agony.
the result will only
We,
prolong
as the members of the
Afghanistan's
regional and
agony.
international community,
We,
so
as
well
the members
represented
of
here
the
by this
regional and
council,
international community,
must put aside
so
our
well
own
represented
differences
here by this council,
on the question of
must put
Afghanistan
aside our own
and
differences
send a strong signal
on the question of Afghanistan,
not only in our public
and send
statements,
a strong
but
signal,
also in our bilateral
not only in our
communications
public
with both
statements,
parties,
but also in our
That is
bilateral
essential to
communications
stop fighting
with both parties,
and negotiate
that is essential
in
to
that
stop
order.
fighting
and negotiate. Otherwise, there may be nothing left to win. Otherwise,
Thank you for
there may
this
be nothing
opportunity
left to win.
The people of
Thank you
Afghanistan
for this
are listening to
opportunity.
us. The people of Afghanistan are listening to us.
I thank Ms. Deborah Lyons for her briefing. I thank Ms. Deborah Lyons. I now give the floor to Ms. Shahrazad Akbar. I now give the floor to Ms. Shahrazad Akbar. You have the floor, please. Your microphone seems to be off. Your microphone seems to be off. Your microphone, please. Your microphone, please. I think your microphone is still not connected. I think your microphone is still not connected. Yeah, I think we'll move to the next speaker and come back to you. It'll give you a little bit of time to get this sorted out. So I now give you a little bit of time to get this sorted out. Representative of Afghanistan. So I now give the floor. You have the floor, to the representative of Afghanistan. You have the floor, Excellency.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, Mr. President and members of the Council. Good morning. I'm honored to make the statement on behalf of my Foreign Minister. I'm honored to make the statement on behalf of my Foreign Minister, who very much wanted to be here with you, but could not travel due to, who very much wanted to be here with you, but could not travel due to short notice. Allow me to first congratulate India for assuming the presidency of the Council. Allow me to first congratulate and equally India for assuming the presidency France of the Council, successfully finishing, and equally it is tenure. Congratulate France for successfully finishing. Government of India, Norway, and I'd like to also thank the government of India, Norway, and Security Council members, the pinholders, and positively to our request, Security Council to brief the Council and responding about the alarming developments in Afghanistan. To brief the Council about the alarming development. This meeting also highlights the Security Council's commitment. This meeting also highlights the people of Afghanistan, the Security Council's commitment to live in peace, ensuring that the people of Afghanistan and dignity are able to live in the Charter of the United Nations and the Universal Declaration of the Charter of the United Nations and the Universal Declaration. In this regard, I should also like to welcome the Security Council statement of 4 August, also like to welcome condemning the terrorist Security Council compound in August, and the recent increase in the level of violence compound in the country, and the recent increase in the level of violence in the country. For her thoughtful briefing and highlighting the alarming threat, for her thoughtful briefing about the situation and highlighting the alarming threat and serious concern about the situation in Afghanistan. Mr. President, we're compelled to ask for this urgent meeting, Mr. President, as the situation in Afghanistan has been rapidly deteriorating, as the situation in escalation of violence by the Taliban and a brutal military escalation of violence by the Taliban and population and brutal military offensives on major cities and population gross contradiction of the Doha peace agreement, the UN Security Council contradiction of the Doha peace agreement, and of the UN Security Council international consensus embodied in the extended Troika and international consensus embodied in the Taliban have launched brutal military offensives already causing massive death, destruction, military offensives, and already causing massive death, destruction, displacement. And even more alarming is their attacks on cities, including even more alarming is their attacks on cities, Ghazni, including Kandahar, Herat, as of yesterday. Ghazni, Shebran, and Zaranchi as of yesterday. Millions of people are now vulnerable to indiscriminate shelling. Millions of people are now vulnerable to indiscriminate shelling, death, injuries, destruction, and public infrastructure that we have our cities with your support over the past 2 decades are now exposed to unimaginable. Over the past 2 decades are now exposed to unimaginable. In this deliberate level of Taliban destruction, the Taliban are not alone. In this deliberate assisted by foreign fighters, the Taliban are not transnational terrorist and they are assisted by foreign fighters. Together, they are transnational terrorist peace, security, and together they are not only in Afghanistan, peace, but also in our region and stability, not only in Afghanistan, but also in our region and ability to stop them from destroying Afghanistan and threatening to stop them from destroying Afghanistan and threatening the scope and timing of their military offensive. The scale, akin to an invasion, and timing of their military offensive in the last 30 years akin to an invasion unprecedented. Since mid-April, the last Taliban and their affiliate foreign terrorist groups have launched more than 5,500 terrorist groups in 31 have launched more than 5,500 attacks. In 31 these attacks have been launched with direct support of more than 10,000 foreign fighters. These attacks have been launched representing 20 groups of more than 10,000 foreign fighters, representing 20 groups, IMU, including Al-Qaeda and ISIL, who entered our country and are fighting alongside Taliban against our country and are fighting alongside Taliban against mounting evidence that the East Turkestan Islamic movement There's mounting evidence that the East Turkestan Islamic movement allegiance and the Islamic movement fought alongside Taliban in which have pledged allegiance to ISIL and fought alongside Taliban where they are currently present with their families under Taliban control. They are currently present with their families under Taliban control. And these transnational terrorist groups is stronger today than at any point in recent times. It's stronger just today, as indicated numerous times by the sanctioned monitoring team of the UN Security Council. Numerous times by the sanctioned monitoring team of the UN Security Council, the Taliban have not broken ties to their commitments under their regional agreement, have not broken ties with their regional and these links are unbreakable. As they have in fact, these links are and built on shared ideology, as they have been cultivated and intermarriages, on shared ideology, translated into joint attacks and intermarriages, which have been translated into joint attacks, logistical the implication and material allowing support. This network to continue to grow inside the country carries great allowing this network to continue not only to grow inside the country carries but also for the wider region, not only for Afghanistan, but also for the wider region. This is a shared risk and concern to all of us. As they are not the Taliban this is a shared of the 21st century to all of coming us. From the isolated not the Taliban of the 21st the manifestation of the coming from the isolated transnational terrorist networks, but the manifestation of the national criminal transnational terrorist networks, their links to drugs, to smuggling, to robbing of our natural resources, their links to drugs, to smuggling, to robbing of our natural resources and participate with them, of course, are the beneficiaries. And those who encourage and participate therefore, with them, of course, this is not a civil war, but a war of criminalized and terrorist this is not a civil war fought on the back of a war of criminalized and terrorist networks. Importantly, the Taliban continue to enjoy a safe haven. Importantly, the Taliban continue to enjoy extended safe haven and supply and logistic line. Graphic reports and video of Taliban fighters congregating close to the Duran line video of Taliban fighters fundraising events, transfer of dead bodies for mass burial. And treatment of injured Taliban transfer of dead bodies for mass burial or emerging treatment of injured Taliban in Pakistani hospitals. This is not only a naked violation of the 1988 UN This is not only a naked violation of the 1988, but also leads to further erosion of trust and confidence towards establishing a collaborative relationship with Pakistan towards establishing a collaborative relationship with Pakistan to war consistent with the agreement of the leadership of Afghanistan and Pakistan in consistent with the agreement of the leadership of Afghanistan and Pakistan in Tashkent and dismantling of Taliban sanctuaries to help supply line and dismantling of Taliban monitoring and verification mechanism and establish with us a joint monitoring and international efforts for peace to make the fight against terrorism and international effort for peace effective that Afghanistan desires nothing but friendly relation and peaceful Afghanistan desires nothing but friendly relation and peaceful for each other's sovereignty. With Pakistan based on mutual respect for each other's sovereignty. We are alarmed by reports and incidents of gross human rights violation. We are alarmed by reports and incidents of gross human rights violation in almost half of our Taliban and their foreign terrorist associates. And we are extremely concerned about the safety and security of people and we are extremely concerned about the safety and security of people in cities under Taliban attacks. I'm glad to see Mr. Shahzad Akbar, Chairwoman of the Afghan Independent Human Rights Commission, Chairwoman of the Afghan Independent Human Rights Commission, but shocking and heart-wrenching images and videos of Taliban's brutality and heart-wrenching images civilian population and people suspected of working for the government and international forces and people suspected of working for the government and which are too graphic to even describe in social media in my statement here. Which are too graphic to even describe them in my statement here. suicide bombings, summary execution, revenge killing, suicide bombings, summary execution, flogging of children, stoning forced marriages, chopping and restricting women and flogging of children, common forced marriages in area restricting women and girls movement are a common occurrence by in area under Taliban religious footwa and are sanctioned by, sadly, this morning, Taliban religious footwa. Taliban terrorists killed, sadly, one of our bravest Taliban terrorists killed sons of Afghanistan, bravest Dawa Khan, who was the head of Afghanistan media Mr. Dawa Khan, who was the head of the This Afghan is in short contrast to Taliban's claim of moderation. This is in short contrast to Taliban's claim of moderation and respect for international law have changed, or even for the worst. They have become more violent in their action, for the worst. Cruel in treatment they have become more violent in their more extremist in their cruel thinking, in treatment and revengeful against sympathizers more